Hey, can somebody confirm you can hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes, we can
can.
hear you.
Thank you. Should be seeing my screen now. There.
Yes.
Yeah, come on. I can't move that. Oh, there it goes. All right, today is February 6th, and we're supposed to be discussing and starting the unknown project today. Any questions? Let's move that down here. There it is. So here's the unknown project. Let me show you where it is in Canvas. So to get to the unknown project, scroll down to week 5 lab. Oh, I've got open. I'm going to talk about the unknown instructions. I will need to talk about the sample journal as well. Building a dichotomous game plan just a little bit. Let's get the unknown species list open also. And I may as well open that. I think I've got the unknown list here. Yeah. All right, in the unknown project, normally you would come into a microbiology lab and the instructor would give you a tube that had 2 bacteria species in it, and then you would have to streak it out and grow up one of the species and then identify it. Try and run different tests to identify the bacteria species. Online, we aren't going to do that. What we're going to do is virtually kind of do that. And I'm going to send you a number, which reminds me, I need to send my Monday, Wednesday people their numbers. I'll send you a number, and that number will represent one of these species of bacteria on this chart. And there's about 23 different species. I'm wondering if there might be 22. Yeah, that's probably 1, 2. So there's probably 22 species. Some of them are gram negative, some of them are gram positive. And then you can see the different characteristics of the different tests up here. I'm going to initially send you the first 3 tests. And the reason for this is when we first designed this project, when COVID-19 first hit, we figured the project out this way, but then I went and checked and figured that students on average are going to need to run 6 or 7 different tests. And for only one class, let's say where you're running 5 tests, there's 20 students right there. That's 100. For 5 tests for 20 students. And in reality, there would be more like 120 different tests, or maybe even more, because some students will require running more tests, and a few lucky students will run less tests. It just depends on what number I send you, what test you get, and how lucky you are, how many tests you run. But on average, around 6 tests. 120 different contacts with one project. And remember, I've got 20 different students, and that's the minimum. in this term, I've got more like 60 students. Each class requiring 100, so that would be like 300 conversations between me and each student. And I just said, that's too much for one project. And so I asked the other instructors, could I design the first test? Well, I'll send out 2 or 3 different tests. And that way, instead of sending out, let's see, if it's 3 tests, that would be 3 times 20 would be 60 different communications between me and the students. And I would send out 1 instead of 60. And that would reduce it, the number of communications between me and the students. Would reduce it by 60. And that would make it a doable project, because 100 different communications, that's just for 20 students. So in reality, it'd be 300 communications per one project, was just too much. Everyone understanding that? So I'm going to send you the first 3 tests. I've decided I'm going to send out the gram stain. Let me try and highlight that. I'll send out the gelatin hydrolysis test. The reason why I selected that one is because this test takes 7 days to run, incubate. And so when you request the test, you wouldn't get any results until 7 days later. So when you request a test, the test will have to incubate. I'll set it up and it'll incubate. And then after the incubation period, I'll send you the results. Most of the tests take 2 days. There are a few tests, like the catalase, the oxidase test, the pigment test. When you request those tests, you could get them in the same day. There are a few tests when you run, you could get the results on the same day you do the test. And so if you ask the test, I'm sending out results, I may send it that day, or at least the next day. But most of the tests you ask for it, they'll need to incubate for 2 days. Some of the tests require 5 days, like the MR test. Where is that? That one needs to incubate 5 days. And the pigment test is the longest. Not the pigment test, the gelatin hydrolysis test requires 7 days to incubate. So I'm sending out the gram stain, the gelatin hydrolysis, and I decided I'll send out the PR lactose test as well. What you'll do is you'll start the gelatin hydrolysis test first. That'll take 7 days to incubate. Then on like Sunday, you'll start the gram stain test, and you'll do the gram stain test on Sunday, but you're not going to look at the slide until, in your guys' case, until Monday. And then on, not Monday, Tuesday. And then on Monday, I'll set up the PR lactose test for you. And then I'll send all the results in 1 week on Tuesday. And so you'll do the gelatin hydrolysis test first. You'll start that test today. You'll start the gram stain test on Sunday and the PR lactose test on Monday. And then instead of sending out 3 different emails for each student, I'll send out 1 email to the entire class. And that'll save me 60 emails. Any question about any of that?
Dr. Volpe, we don't need to email you asking you to run each of those 3 tests. You're just going to start those for us?
Yeah,
and then
I'm
okay.
choosing these first 3 for you, and I
Okay.
will start them. And after the incubation period, I will send you the results. And
Okay.
I'll send it to the entire class. And instead of sending out 60 emails, I'll just send out 1. And that'll save a large number of communications between you and me on this project.
Okay. Thank you.
After that,
I have a question.
yes,
Do we need to keep a list and write down all the tests that we've done as
yes,
like a report? Okay.
sorry. So what you'll do is you'll figure out what your possibilities are, and we're just going to give an example. We're going to say it's gram negative, so that narrows it down to half the species. We're going to say it's gelatin hydrolysis negative, so that narrows it down to these guys. And most of these, I'm doing this simply. This used to stay up, and now it doesn't. I don't know what happened. It must have been a download and it changed the way this is working. And then the PR lactose test, we're going to say it's AG. So that narrows it down to 4 different possible species. And you guys will see this and do this. And then you will say, okay, I got to narrow it down to one of these 4 species now. I have 4 there. And you could do the 6.5% sodium chloride. You could do the urease test. You could do PR sucrose test. And you could do the Voges Prescure test. Let's say it's Voges Prescure negative. You decide to do that test. Then you request it to me. I'll show you where in a minute. And it turns out to be Voges Prescure negative. Now you've narrowed it down. Whoops, excuse me. Now you've narrowed it down to 3. I should have done positive. That would narrow it down even quicker. A V means you have to treat it as both a negative and a positive. Where there's a V, it means this test can run sometimes as a positive, sometimes as a negative. A V means variable. Okay. And then you can do another test. Let's do the urease test. And let's say it's positive. So that means it has to be the V's here. And now I narrowed it down to 2. And you'll go about like this. Any questions about that until you get it narrowed down to 1? After you have it narrowed down to 1, what would be an example? Oh, there we go. You do the 6.5% sodium chloride broth test and it turns out to be positive. Then you know it has to be this one here, and it's Enterobacter cloaceae. After you've narrowed it down to 1, you can do one more test to confirm that it is this species. And what would we do? That wouldn't be the best test because we expect it to be AG negative, AG positive, and it would be that. But if it is AG positive, that would still be that. So that wouldn't be the best test. This would narrow out 1, but not any of those 3. I don't see one that would narrow it down to just 1 here. You could run this one and hope it's negative. Of course, that doesn't narrow out that one or that one. Anyways, the point is, after you have it narrowed down to 1, you may do one additional test at no penalty. And this is a confirmation test to confirm that the species actually is the one you think it is. Do not do more than one confirmation test, otherwise there will be a penalty. And you don't have to do the confirmation test. Any questions about any of that?
So when you say we're doing the test, does that just mean we message you asking for the test? Or are we physically doing something that is the test?
I will be setting up the test for you and sending you the test results. You will do everything else. How you do that is you come to your unknown notes page and you'll go to the first page. Let's say you're Shane, and you will put on this page a submission. You'll have a document saying submit, and yours might be here or there, or it might be at the bottom of the page here. I don't know where your submission button will be. I don't have a submission button. I've got a grade all button, which nobody submitted anything. So I don't have, let me show you what it would look like if you were submitting. And I gotta stop sharing the screen because these will be graded. I'm going to remove somebody's grade. And I'm going to go back to an earlier term. And just show you what it'll look like. But I have to remove their grade so you don't see their grade. Summer 2023 will be not far enough back. Let's go summer 2022. That is moved in the way again. You can't see that, but I've got that sharing screen in the way. Let's go to week 5. Lab.
We can see your screen still.
Oh, I thought I stopped that. Thank you for letting me know that. You haven't
Yep.
seen the grade. I'm trying to stop it so you can't see the grade. I'm going to remove the student's grade. That's why that wasn't there. It didn't work. Okay, now I got to get out of here. There we go. Scroll down to the lab there. There's the unknown notes. I'm just going to remove the student's grade, then I'll let you see it. And why does that student have no grade there? That's odd. I bet I didn't save that from last time. I think I remember what that grade was. It shouldn't be a problem because this is over a year ago, but I should put the student's grade back. All right, so let me share my screen now. So this will be the unknown notes page. Let me show you where that is. You scroll down to week 5 lab. And in the week 5 lab, there's the unknown report. Scroll down to the unknown notes, click on that button. It'll take you to there. Then you'll have a, well, actually, you'll probably have the direct thing when you hit that, but you might have a button you have to hit over here, which take you to the site. And if I hit that, it'll be this one here. So this student has submitted 1, 2, 3, 4 different documents on 4 different days. April 4th, the first day they submitted the notes from when they started the project. They started the, they got their bacteria on 7/27/2022, streaked it out, and got the unknown number. Their unknown number is number 63. They put this in their unknown notes page. They did it up there too. first test, actually it's not the gram stain. The first test they start is the gelatin hydrolysis test, but they got the gram stain, and it looks like they started that test on 8/1 because they would have gotten that probably August 4th. And they should have August 4th here for the date they got the results. And there's the results I sent them for the gram test. And they gave their conclusions. My unknown bacteria is gram negative, and they didn't state why. Oh, yes, they did. The gram stain, since the bacteria is staining pink. I will next test my bacteria with gelatin hydrolysis test. They actually first started the gelatin hydrolysis test. That would have been started on 7/27. And then they would get the results on August 4th. They just wanted to put the gram stain first, and that's fine. So that they got the results on August 4th after the running 7 days. And there's the test there. And what do they say? The gelatin remains a liquid. So the results, which they don't have here, is it's gelatin hydrolysis positive. That's the conclusion, I guess. The results is right here. This is their result. The gelatin is a liquid. The conclusion is the gelatin hydrolysis test is positive. You should put that in there, by the way. That's probably why they were marked. I guess I want to say that. And then the PR lactose test, which probably started on August 3rd. Let's see if they've got that in there. They don't have that on there. So they would have been marked down because they should state when they started the PR lactose test, August 3rd, and they got the results on August 4th. The PR lactose test came back. There's the results, and it shows no evidence of fermentation, so it's fermentation negative is the conclusion. The broth remained red is the result. And then in 8/4, they looked at their table of unknowns and went through a procedure like this. And the test that they requested was decided to run was the oxidase test, if I remember right. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, they asked for the oxidase test on 8/4. And this they put at the bottom of the document. You may put it at the top of the document, very first thing on the document, or you may put it, it should be on the bottom of the document. That's where I will look for it. If you put it, your test request, in the middle of the document, I'm not going to necessarily read it on the first day. I'll scan your document. If you ask for a test, it had better be on the bottom of the document or the very top of the document. I will look on the top of the document. If it's in the middle of the document, I'm not going to see it. And you're going to have to wait until I read through the document. Okay? And then I'll see it, and then I'll get it. So if you want the test started right away, it must be at the bottom of the document because that's where I'm going to look for it. Or, like I said, it can be at the top of the document. I will look there as well. I'm requesting you put it at the bottom of the document. And then I will set up the test. The oxidase test actually can be done immediately. And when did I send that out? It looks like I sent out the results on August 5th, the next day. So when he sent it October 4th, I didn't look at this until October 5th. And then I sent out the oxidase test on the 5th. And he didn't submit the results until the 11th. He put the same information on the top of this document and then submitted his results on the 11th, which he got on the 5th. If he had took a look at the this page on the 5th, he would have seen that I sent it on the 5th, and he could have put it on the 5th. However, it doesn't matter. He looked at the results on the 11th. Here's the results of the oxidase test. And he said the conclusion is, that's not a result, actually, that's a conclusion. The oxidase test is negative. The result is it's not staining dark purple. If it had been dark purple, it would have been oxidase positive. And then he gave the next test, the urease test is the next test he asked. And let's see when I sent that out. That's 2 days later, August 13th. I sent out the results. That does need to incubate for 2 days. And that he didn't take a look at until August 17th and put up the results for the urease test. He doesn't have the picture I sent him, but he put up the results. The broth was pink. The pink coloration means the bacteria tested positive for urease enzyme. So this is urease positive, and that narrows down the options to Proteus mirabilis or Proteus vulgaris. You looked at the chart of the unknown and then picked a test to separate between those two. And what's the test he requested? You then asked for the indole test. He asked for that on August 17th. So I would send that out. On the 19th, I sent out the indole test. And let's go ahead and take a look there. He didn't put up the information until the 23rd. But the indole test right here, I wonder why he put that on the 22nd if he'd sent it on the 23rd. The indole test had a bright red oil layer, so that's the result. He could put up the picture if he wanted to. The negative control is the yellowish color. So the unknown is positive for the indole test. And this differentiates it. And so it's unknown as Proteus mirabilis. Oh, wait a minute. No, Proteus vulgaris. It's unknown as Proteus vulgaris. And so there he's got his unknown stated. And that's the end of the test. He could do one confirmation test if he wanted, and he did not. And so that was his unknown notes. So all of your results, when I send it to you, should be put on your unknown notes pages. You should put on your conclusion. You should, at the very minimum, do one other thing, and you should put the number of species under consideration. He doesn't have that. And actually, I should mark them down 2 things.
Do you want us to just put the number of species, or do you want us to name all of the
No,
species?
you should name all of them. So you don't need to name all of them at the start. You could say under consideration is all the species. And then after the gram stain, you should put 11 or 12 possible species. He could just say all the gram negative species are under consideration. But then with the gelatin hydrolysis test, there would be like 3 or 4 species he should name. Okay. And I don't know how many there is. Let's see if he ever did this. He did on 8/17. He put the species under consideration. So it eliminated Salmonella typhorum, and then this narrowed down to 2, Proteus mirabilis and Proteus vulgaris. He should have had that on every day. No, admittedly, the very first day, it would be all the species are under consideration, and then it was narrowed down to all the gram-negative species after the gram test. But after every test, you should state what species are under consideration. Any question about any of that? So that's a minimum you should put down on your unknown notes. Anything that are your thoughts on the project should go in your unknown notes pages. They should be in the document. So you write a document and you submit it. You might be able to just type it in. Let me take a look and see if I've got that. It looks like I got it, so you could type it in as well. So you just come to the document, which is probably why this person never submitted the yeah, you can do a text entry. Didn't submit the pictures to the last two. He just came to the document and typed in the information. Anyways, after my first email sending you the first 3 test results, you should be putting all of your information in your unknown notes pages for the unknown project, including all of your test requests. If you send me a test request by email, I'll reply back to you. I'm not going to honor a test request by email. Put it in your unknown notes pages because I want all of the work in this project in one place. So both you can look all of the information up and I can easily look up all the information up. And so if it's all in your unknown notes pages, we can both find it very easily. If it's in the email, well, I will never find it. I've got tons of emails, okay? Let me just show you all the emails I have. It doesn't even say the total. These are just the latest email, but this is the email from January 29th. That's still this term. January 20th. This is still this term. Sorry if there's a student who I'm showing their emails they don't want. That's still this term. That's still this term. I think I have to go back to December to get to the last term. Here, finally, now I've gone back one term. I've got all the emails in Canvas. Okay, so I have a ton of emails. There'd be no way I would find something if you were to email me a request. So everything's going to go in your unknown notes pages, and I'm not going to honor any request sent by email. I'll tell you to put it at the bottom of your document in the unknown notes page. Any question about any of that? And it tells you what you should put in here. Obviously, you should put in your test results that I send you. You should put in your interpretations. That's your conclusion. You should put the test request at the bottom of the document. If it's at the top of the document, I will see it. If it's in the middle of the document, I'm not going to see it until I read through it, and I won't read through it immediately. Generally, in this class, I'll be checking the unknown notes pages probably every day, Monday through Thursday, and certainly every other day, Monday through Thursday. And then I'll be checking it once on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It'll never be on Sunday, but once on either Friday or Saturday. That does mean if you happen to send in your document with a test request on Friday, after I've already looked at it on Friday, that means I will not look at your unknown notes document until Monday. And you're just going to have to deal with that if you submit it late on Friday. I might look at it on Saturday, but no guarantee, and I will not look at it on Sunday. You should put in your unknown notes pages also the species under consideration and anything that is your thoughts or comments or thinking on the document should be in your unknown notes page. Just submit it in the document. Do not submit it in a comment. If you put it in the comment, I'm going to tell you to move it into the document, a submission document, because I'm going to delete it. And once you put it in there, I'm going to delete it. The assignment comments are for me to put comments to you. And let me show you where I've got that. Like right there, I've got the results for all the tests that were requested. Generally, I don't give other comments until I grade the document at the very end. And all I'm doing is sending you the results in the comments. So do not use the comment section. Put all of your comments in your document. I will eventually read it, and I'll get your comment if you want to comment to me. Okay? Any question about any of that? All right, let's go on. Get out of, oops, before I get out of there, I got to put the grade back. Let me stop the share. Wrong one. Let me get back here. Let's be this one. I might have more than one of those now. Close down the unknown notes pages. All right, now I can, wait a minute, let me close down the bit earlier term, summer 2022. There we go. All right, now I can show you. Sharing my screen again. So put everything in your unknown notes pages that is dealing with the unknown notes project. And everything will go there. The only time the unknown notes page will not be used is when I'm sending out the very first email containing the results. And that will be by the email in Canvas, but everything else should be put in your unknown notes pages. Any questions about that part? All right, I've shown you the unknown species, the list. You use that. There's a sample journal that's going through what your lab report will look like. So after the end, near the end of the term, after the project is done, you will need to write up your unknown report. And that will look something like this journal. This journal was done for let me see if I've got that in here. Yeah, I do. It'll be easier to run from here. This was written up for someone who did the test request in the lab. So you should give the unknown number and who it's by. Travis Kubota is actually the instructor, and it was written up in 2004. And they started day 1, February 3rd, 2004. Every entry should be a date entry, and this shouldn't be a problem for you because in your unknown notes pages, it'll put the date directly on the page. Let me call that up. I forgot one thing. I'll need to talk about that in a minute. Yeah, I can't show it here. We'll just talk about it in general. I've already put the grade back, so I don't want to go back to that other student. And he got the 2 species of bacteria in a tube. That's the way we do it in the lab. On the online class, I'm just going to send out one number that's going to represent one species, but you can pretend that you're streaking it out for colony isolation and taking from an isolated colony and streaking it out a second time on another second dish, streaking it out for colony isolation and grabbing from a second colony so that your cells have gone through 2 colony formation events. You then will grab from that second colony to set up your stock culture, and you're going to pretend that all the tests that you're running are coming from your stock culture set up from cells that went through 2 colony formation events. And we actually have that, how we did that in the lab with your unknown instructions near the bottom. We gave you a tube in the real lab containing 2 species. Like I said, you're only going to get 1 in the online class. And then you streaked it out on a TSA plate, and a sodium azide plate, and McConkey's plate. McConkey's only grows gram-negative. Sodium azide only grows gram-positive. TSA grows both. And then you would streak it out a second time on from an isolated colony on a second plate, picking your cells from a second colony, isolated colony, and set up the stock culture from those cells that went through 2 colony isolation events. And then you'll make your stock culture from that. Okay. And then in the future, you would use this to set up all your test requests. So you're going to pretend to do that. Any questions about that? Because online, there is no real way for you to do that. But just pretend you're doing that and you're setting up a stock culture. You're going to pretend you're doing that. And you'll actually pretend that you're running into the lab and running these tests. But in reality, you're requesting it of me. I'll set up the test. And after the incubation period, I'll send you the results. Any question about any of that? I'll talk about that later. Oh, I still have that to talk about, so I'll leave that there. Where am I here? Oh, I'm talking about the sample journal. So later on in the sample journal, you'll want to have something like this. The observation would be on tests you requested earlier. So on most of the tests, you would not get the results on the same day. And it looks like here he's just saying that he's discussing how the slant of your stock culture looks, that they're have a yellow pigmentation color. And then he's performing on this day the gram stain from his stock culture. And there's the results of the gram stain. And then the conclusion is this appears to be a gram-positive cockeye. Okay? Any question about any of that? I guess the conclusion here, I should probably put that in there, the results. So the conclusion is it's gram-positive cockeye. You should, on each day, have at least 3 headings. One will be an observation on an earlier test. So those will be your test results. You then have your activities. That'll be the test you're running on this day. Why is this taking so long to save? And you should have a conclusion for the test for the observations you make. Well, that's good. I'm not sure why this is running so long, but it's trying to save it down. And at the moment, I don't have anything. I might have to shut this down and open it up again. So in each date, we're just going to talk about it, and hopefully this will clear. You should have at least observations, activities, and conclusions. Like I said, on this day, because the observations were on a previous test, and then they have results from the test they ran this day, meaning you get the results from the gram stain. You can get it right away. In the online class, you won't get it right away, but that's just so I send all the information on one day. But there are a few tests you may get the results on the same day you request the test. The pigment test can be done. Get the results immediately. The catalase test and the oxidase test. Those are the three main tests where you can get the results on the same day. No guarantee that you will, because when you request the test, if I've already looked at your unknown notes page for the day, I won't see that test request until the next day, but you'll get it soon. And if you get it on another day, you just put it in your observations for your next daily entry. There we go. So on this day, he ran no tests, didn't request any tests on day 4, which would probably be February 7th, February 6th. Obviously an instructor, because they did that 3 days later, not 2 days later. And then he ran the catalase test on this day and got the results, which would be, he saw bubbles. And then the conclusion is the catalase test is positive. That narrows down the species down to Staphylococcus or micrococcus families. He didn't ask for any tests here. So on the next day, no observations because there's no test. And then ran the catalase test. And he's setting up the 7% sodium chloride test. Where's the results to the 7% sodium chloride? Oh, here it is down here. Inoculated. Well, why is he doing that? Oh, here's the conclusions. So you got growth, I guess, on the 7% sodium chloride. And that narrowed it down to Staphylococcus aureus or Micrococcus luteus. No, Micrococcus luteus should not grow. So probably Staphylococcus aureus, possible species. Where do I have that? It looks like he didn't finish this and doesn't have the results on the 7% sodium chloride. He doesn't have that there. All right, any questions about what your unknown report is going to look like? You only write this up near the very end of this term. Let me see when that is. The unknown notes pages closes on March 8th of this term. The unknown report must be submitted on March 9th. You'll want to take a look at the sample journal before you begin writing up the unknown report. You'll also want to look at the unknown grading rubric, how the unknown report will be graded. And obviously submit your last documents for the unknown notes on March 8th. When you're writing your unknown notes pages, you may write them up informally or formally. If you write them formally, you can take your unknown notes pages and then just copy it and put it into your unknown report. And one advantage of submitting everything you have on one page, meaning you're submitting what you submitted earlier is on the top of your last submission, meaning when you submit a document, you're including everything. It is just easier to copy and paste all the information into your unknown report. You may do that because the unknown notes will date each submission. So you can just copy and paste it. If you write it formally, you can do that. If you write it informally, which you can do in your unknown notes pages, you'll have to change the wording to make it a formal lab report in your unknown project report. So if you write the unknown notes page formally and then just submit the earlier information on the top of the document and then your latest information on the bottom of the document. Like I said, it's just easy to copy that information and put it directly in your unknown report. You will need to add to it because the unknown report has things that are not required in the unknown notes. And we'll talk about the unknown report in just a little bit. Any question about any of that? All right, let's shut that down. Let's wait, talk about the grading and the dichotomous game plan in a little bit. Let's talk about the unknown instructions. We've actually looked at this a little bit. You can read about the introduction. This project is going to be worth 75 points. They will go in the lab portion of the project. You can read about the rationale. Normally in the lab, you would need to streak it out and do that, pass the cells through 2 colony formation events to make sure you have a pure culture. You're going to pretend to do that in this online class. In this project, you should be using dichotomous logic. That means you'll ask for one test at a time. I'll send the results. You'll look up and ask for another test. I'll send the results. Dichotomous logic is something like, let me get paint up here. There we go. You have all possible species. And then you do the gram stain first, or early, we'll say that. It may not be first, but gram stain. And you will have that separated out into the gram positive. Gram negative. And we're going to say it's gram negative, stretch the gram positive out. And now we're going to do the we'll say gelatin hydrolysis test. That's another early one you're doing. I'm not going to write all of that out. Gelatin, we're just going to abbreviate. Gelatin positive. gelatin negative. Once again, we'll say it's gelatin negative. So we'll cross this one out. And then you do another test. Let's say pigmentation. Oop. Pigmentation positive. Pigmentation negative. And here we'll cross this one out. And the point is you'll be using dichotomous logic. Each time you have a number of species in consideration, you'll then separate it into two by using a single test. You get the gram negative, and then do your next test, separating into two. This is the dichotomous logic. Any questions about that? You must use dichotomous logic in this project or you will get a penalty. Shotgun logic is where you're requesting many different tests at the same time. And it is possible. I will give that to you. I will remind you that this project is supposed to be using dichotomous logic. And do you really want to request running, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 6 different tests at one time? And if you say yes, we'll send you the results, but you will get a penalty. For doing this project, you should look up the test results. The number one place to look up is, of course, the sheet of the unknown right here. And if ever the results on this table differ from what you think it should be, meaning you say Berge's manual says the results are negative for this test, and you got, Berge's manual says it's positive for this test, and you got negative. There are a few places where the data has been changed in this table to make it possible for you guys to identify the species. So there are a few places where the actual results in this table are not what the results should be. And we did that so that you can identify the species. Is that clear? All right. But generally, this is the results you actually see in the Berge's manual, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions in this whole table. And as you can see, there's a lot of results in this table. It's in this top part here, and we're not even seeing all of it. There we go. Like I said, there's only 1 or 2. I don't remember what they are, but I once actually had a student ask me, and I'm saying, what should he go by? Go by this table. But generally speaking, like I said, this is the results in the Berge's manual. So these are real results. There is 1 or 2 exceptions in the whole table. And we made those exceptions so that you can more easily identify the species. One example is these two here. There aren't too many that differ between these two. Like a variable could be a negative, so that doesn't separate these. And the variable could be a positive, so that doesn't separate these. So to separate these, you have to have a little bit of luck. And I will help you a little bit, but you have to have a variable separate these two species. And what you'll do is you'll just keep doing the test. Whenever you get a negative, it has to be this one, because that's not going to be a negative. Or you get this one, it's a negative. But if this is a positive, you haven't separated those two. So you'll run that test and it'll hopefully be a negative. I don't remember if this is one of the places where it was changed or not, but like I said, there is one place in this place where I know it's changed, and there may be a second place where it's changed. And it's just so that you can identify the species. But you may use Berge's manual, you may use your textbook, you may get your information from other sources. If you do get your information from other sources, make sure it is reliable. Berge's manual will be reliable, your textbook will be reliable. Generally, a lab textbook should be reliable. You should write your daily notes in your unknown notes pages. Document all your activities. Do not try to trust your memory and then do it later. Although you can always check your emails and do it from my email. The project will be worth 75 points. When you write it up, you should use 12-point font. If you notice, I have glasses. If you use less than 12-point font, I'll have a hard time reading it. Do not double space. Do not omit data to make your project look better. Drawings, photos, and tables are very useful and helpful information. They are not required, but I will send you pictures to all of your test results. You may attach other drawings, photos, and tables. If you do, they must be completely labeled and discussed within the body of your report, as well as stating where you got those drawings, photos, and tables. Now, any picture I send to you, you do not need to say that I sent it to you and you got it from the Canvas webpage. But every other picture, you should state where you got that picture from. Each report must begin with the date. You don't need the time, but the date, and unknown notes pages will have that. You do not need to describe the step-by-step details for each test you run. For example, if you're running the gram stain, all you need to do is state, on such and such a day, I ran the gram stain. The cells look pink. Therefore, my conclusion is that they're gram negative and they were in the shape of rods, so they are gram negative bacilli. Okay, that's all you need to state. You do not need to go in and say, I ran the gram stain. I first I made a bacterial smear. I allowed it to air dry. I then heat fixed it. I then put on crystal violet, dumped it off, washed it, then add grams iodine. You don't need to add any of that detailed for the gram stain. I know what the gram stain is. You just need to tell me what test you ran. You should put your thoughts and your words in your report. And anything you copy from some other place, they should be put in your own words, or else you should put it in quotes and say where you got it from. All your work should be your own, or put it in quotes and say where you got it from. In your unknown report, it is mandatory you include a table or an outline or figure detailing the process you use to identify your unknown organism. For example, this student here started with all the species, and then they got the gram-positive coccus. That narrowed it down to these species. You may not have these species, you may have slightly different species, but it'll be similar. And then they ran the catalase test as catalase positive. That narrowed it down to these 4 species. PR mannitol test for the next test they ran narrowed it down to these 3 species. PR glucose result was acid, narrowing it down to these species. Citrate positive, narrowing down to this 1 species. And if they had done a confirmation test, they could have ran 1 more test and it should be the same species. Okay? So you must include this table in your unknown report, or a figure or a diagram. That must be included in your unknown report. You must have a microorganism paragraph or two. Don't make it more than a page. And that's much more than you need. You only need a paragraph or two discussing, in this case, Micrococcus varians. You'll need to give a literature citation, because to give this paragraph, you're going to need to get that information from someplace. So at the very minimum, you should have one reference in your unknown report. You may use any literature citation style you wish, APA, MLA, any other, for citing your references. So it is required you have the paragraph discussing your microorganism. It is required you have the references, the literature citation page. If you use somebody else's words, you must put it in quote and say where you got that from. Otherwise, it is plagiarism. If you plagiarize on this report, you will get a 0 on this project. This project is worth 75 points. You do not want to get a 0. Okay? I think that's it. Let's talk about the grading criteria. You will be graded on the logic you use in setting up your tests, completeness of the report, organization, clarity, and neatness. Let's look at the grading criteria now. See if I have that here. Maybe. Yeah, I do. All right. So you'll be graded on this key here, utilization of resources. If you use excess media, meaning you requested a test you did not need, or an irrelevant test where you requested a test and it didn't add any information, then that would be 1. You'll get 8 out of 10. If there's none, you'll get 10 out of 10. 2 tests are irrelevant, you'll get 6 out of 10, etc. So look on what the possible species are and request the correct test. Like I said, generally, unless students make a mistake, they don't get marked down on this. Or they're doing like shotgun logic and they're requesting a whole bunch of tests at once. Some of them may be irrelevant. Was dichotomous logic used in selecting your test? If dichotomous logic was used, you'll get 10 out of 10. If you're requesting 1 excess test, you'll get 8 out of 10. 2 excess tests, 6 out of 10. If shotgun logic is being used, 2 out of 10. No logic at all, 0 out of 10. Were all relevant tests used, meaning no tests were omitted, you'll get 10 out of 10. If you have 1 test omitted, and that'll be either a student who's confused on this project and didn't request a test they should have, or they never finished the project, they'll get 1 test omitted and they'll get 8 out of 10. 2 to 3 tests omitted, 6 out of 10. I've never had anyone beyond that. Well, except a student who never requested tests, and they'll get no logic, 0 out of 10. Were the correct species included at each step? If all the correct species are included at each step, no species are incorrect, and you get 10 out of 10. 1 species incorrect, 8 out of 10. 2 to 3 species incorrect, 6 out of 10. No species listed, you'll get 2 out of 10. Completeness of the report, all information presented, 10 out of 10. 1 instance of missing information, 8 out of 10. effective, clear communication, your English, your grammar, your spelling, and your punctuation. If they're all good, you get excellent, 15 out of 15. A few errors, but logic is understood, 13 out of 15. Some errors, but logic is still understood, 11 out of 15. Some errors and the logic I do not understand, meaning you're stating something and the English, the grammar, the spelling, the punctuation are so bad, I'm not sure what you're stating. So the logic is not understood, 7 out of 15. If you correctly identify your species, you'll get 10 out of 10. If you get a species, but it's close, meaning it's within the same group, 7 out of 10. If it's outside the group, but the gram stain is correct, let me see, you didn't notice it was supposed to be E. coli, and you say it's Proteus vulgaris, for example. The gram stain is correct, however, it's outside the group, 5 out of 10. If you get the gram stain wrong, it's 0 out of 10. Total score, 75 points. Any questions about the grading? Look at this before you write your unknown report. Look at the sample journal before you write the unknown report. And obviously, throughout the project, you should look at the unknown instructions. I think that's it. If you're having a little bit of difficulty with dichotomous logic, we have a dichotomous logic thing you can work through. Refer to the table above to answer the following hypothetical question using dichotomous logic. You can answer the questions for your own need. These questions do not need to be turned in with the report. If you don't understand this project's dichotomous logic, please discuss it with me as soon as possible. If there's any questions you have on the project, please email me. Some students let this project wait. You'll need to get started early. This project will take time. You will need to be running on average about 6 different tests, although I'll give you 3 at the beginning. So about at least 3 additional tests. Sometimes if you're unlucky, you may need to run 5 additional tests. I don't think I've had many beyond 5, maybe 6. And then if you're very lucky, you'll only have to run a few additional tests. Generally 2 if you're very lucky, beyond the 3. I once had one student who got it on 1 test, but that was very exceptional, and they ran a test and it just narrowed it down immediately to 1 species. And what happened was they were very lucky and they requested a test and the result was positive, and there was only 1 species that was positive, all the others were negative. And I don't know why they did that, because they had like, I don't know, 6 different species and 5 were one way, 1 was one way, and they happened to get the 1 out of the 5 and the 1 out of the 6, and they just happened to get very lucky. But that only happened once. So you'll be generally running at least 2 tests, and most of you probably about 4 tests after I send you the first 3 tests. All right, I think that's it. I already talked about this. You'll need to look at this throughout the term. Like I said, you have to run different tests, and this is going to take time. And so you need to get started on this project soon. It needs to be turned in by, I believe, March 9th, the unknown report. The unknown notes pages closes on the 8th. If you make a test request on the 8th, it had better be a test that will only take a day to incubate. Okay, because if you ask a test that is 2 days, you'll get the results after the report has to be turned in, and that will be too late. Most of the tests do take 2 days to incubate. Some take 5 days, one takes 7 days, and there are a few that you get the test in 1 day or less, but there's only a few that way. Any questions about this project? If not, I think I'm done.
Should we be expecting the message from you with our numbers within the next like day or 2 days? How long?
I haven't sent it to the Monday, Wednesday people, so I'm gonna try and send them tonight, the number. You probably won't get it today. It'll probably be at least tomorrow. It might be in 2 days. In fact, you don't really need the number. I could send the number when I send you the test results, but I probably will send you the number soon. And you are starting the test today, and you will get the gelatin hydrolysis test in a week. So expect your first test results next Tuesday. And you'll get 3 tests that I chose for you. The gelatin hydrolysis test, which you're starting tonight, the gram stain, which you'll start on Sunday, and then the PR lactose test we'll start on Monday. Any questions about that? All right, if there's no questions, I think I'm done. All right, I'll see you at 5 for the lecture.
Thank you